The verb vayashuvu in the phrase vayashuvu vayalinu alav et kol ha'eda has a shoresh of shin vav bet. It translates to turn back, as in teshuvah, to restore something to its original state, or simply to return. And one might argue that in Pasuk 36, the text is describing a second level of incitement. This would come on the heels of the narrative in Bamidbar 13, where we are told of the first incitement of the people against going into Eretz Yisrael. This is described in Pasuk 32, Vayotziu dibat haaretz asher taru ota el bnei Yisrael, in which the Meraglim maintained that the land they are headed towards is an Eretz Ochelet Yoshveha, it consumes its inhabitants. The people that live there are Anshe Midot, are people of extraordinary dimensions, both in height and in strength, and therefore the entire project is suicidal. This follows on from Bamidbar 13:26, a few pasukim earlier, where we are told, Vayelchu vayavo el Moshe ve'el Aharon. The Meraglim came before Moshe and Aharon ve'el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, and to the entire congregation of Bnei Yisrael, showing them the fruit of exceptional size, and by extension, so too were the people. Panic broke out, and Kalev entered into a debate with the 10 Meraglim. And therefore it might be argued that subsequent to the debate and the incitement recorded in Bamidbar 13:32, they vayashuvu, they returned, and this time not only inciting anger against the mission, but also against Allah, against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who ostensibly was leading the nation towards Eretz Canaan. In Prague, Bohemia, which later became known as Czechoslovakia, lived the Maharal of Golem fame, who wrote a Pirush, a super commentary to Rashi. In the GUR ARYEH, he presents his understanding of the commentary of Rashi, who writes, Ukesheshavu'u mitur haaretz, when they returned from spying the land, hirimu alav et kol ha'eda b'hotzah diba, they provoked the entire congregation with their slander. Otam anashim, those people, the 10 of them, vayamutu. On the surface at least, one might argue that Rashi is adding nothing new to what the pasuk specifically states. GUR ARYEH suggests this segment of the commentary of Rashi comes to reject the alternative reading to Vayashuvu, that there were two provocations, one recorded in Bamidbar 13, the other recorded in Bamidbar 14. And accordingly, the pasuk reads as follows. We have the subject, Hanashim, followed by a parenthetical phrase. Which anashim? The ones asher shalach Moshe latoret haaretz vayashuvu vayalinu alav et kol ha'eda lahotzi dibal haaretz, referring to the provocation recorded in Bamidbar 13. What happened to these people? Vayamutu. They died immediately. And this understanding of the pasuk is reflected in the words of Rashi, Vayashuvu vayalinu alav kesheshavu mitur haaretz. Not following the angry debate between themselves and Kalev, but this Vayashuvu harkens back to the information recorded in Bamidbar 13. The rationale of the GUR ARYEH in rejecting the Vayashuvu as a second incitement comes from a close reading of the text. Had Vayashuvu referred to a second incitement, then the text should have placed the word Vayashuvu at the beginning of the pasuk, which would then read Vayashuvu ha-nashim. The people that Moshe had originally sent to spy the land returned a second time, and Vayalinu alav et kol ha'eda, provoked, incited the congregation a second time. The subject would be ha-nashim asher shalach Moshe v'latur et haaretz. The verb would be Vayashuvu and Vayalinu. The reality, however, is that the word Vayashuvu is not placed at the beginning of the pasuk, and therefore, argues the GUR ARYEH, it is part of the parenthetical phrase, and the subject is what happened to the Anashim, that the Anashim were punished immediately. Which ones? Asher shalach Moshe latur et haaretz, the ones that Vayashuvu vayalinu alav et kol ha'eda, lahotzi diba al haaretz. This is how the GUR ARYEH understands the Rashi. There are, however, some problems that the Rebbe raises, which we shall now look at.